Chairperson Isiano, we're ready when you are.
Okay, wonderful. It is 6 p.m. on May the 25th. Call to order our Planning Commission meeting. Can we please get a roll call of attendance?
Commissioner Lopez.
Present.
Commissioner Valdez appears to be absent. Commissioner Franz.
Present.
Vice Chairperson Rodriguez Ceja.
Present.
And Chairperson Isiano.
Present. Okay, Vice Chair, would you please be so kind as to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance? If we can put up our flag on the screen, please, Vanessa.
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you so much. Starting off, Vanessa, do we have any public comments for items not on the agenda, either in-house or virtually today?
There are none.
There are none. Okay. Being that there are no public comments for items not on the agenda, we'll go ahead and start our action items. 4.1 to adopt resolution number 2025. Do we have a staff report on this, please?
Good evening, Chairperson and Planning Commission. My name is Timothy Wassel. I am the Director of Public Works for the City of Indio, and it would be my pleasure tonight to go over this item with you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions after the presentation. But the item before you is actually to adopt Resolution 2025, which is a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Indio, finding that the 2022 fiscal year 2022-2023 capital improvement program of the City of Indio's Public Works Department is indeed consistent with the current City of Indio General Plan 2040. And as a quick background, this item is required in accordance with the Indio Municipal Code Section 3209 and California Government Code Section 65103 paren C, close paren, requiring the city planning agency, which is the Indio Planning Commission, to annually review the CIP for consistency with the city's general plan. And it's also in accordance with Government Code Section 65402. And with that, the finding of the general plan consistency includes the following. Right-of-way activities, including any minor transactions as previously determined to be consistent with the general plan, and any other right-of-way activities to implement the capital improvement program, and real property transactions necessary to carry out the capital improvement program, CIP, and the design, construction, or installation of CIP-related public improvements, buildings or structures, and the engagement of any consultants necessary to carry out the CIP, and the city's bidding process associated with any project of the CIP. And with that, I'll begin the presentation. How do I move forward here with the arrows? The right arrow, okay. So we'll go through the presentation. I have about 40 projects, so I'm going to go through them real quick, but feel free to stop me at any point if you have any particular questions. So those are some of the projects that we've already completed. And this is the intersection of Avenue 48 and Jefferson Street. We modified that intersection and we were able to add a right turn lane, which made traffic flow much better and easier. And we ended up slurrying that intersection as well. And that project was completed last year successfully. This next project was also completed last fiscal year and part of this current fiscal year. And those are park improvements at Dr. Carrion, which ended up installing additional picnic tables, 4 barbecues, and containers. And also, you see the art features that were brought in from the Golden Voice from the Polo Ground. So those are already installed. So now we go into next year's projects. And as of last week, actually, the City Council added another 20 plus projects in addition to the other 20 plus projects. So I'm just going to try and go through them real quick here. This is a project which is actually, we had an accident, but it is a capital improvement program. So we have to end up repairing the guardrail at the bridge barrier along Jefferson Street and India Boulevard. So that's just a repair project, but it's a capital improvement project. As you can see in the right top corner, there is a general plan policy consistency, and those policies are included in the resolution itself, or in the resolution 2025. So if you refer to that section, it will tell you what section this is in compliance with or in accordance with. This next project is just a street light upgrade, and we're planning on upgrading approximately 1,376 street light poles and fixtures. And this is funding through our community block grant. So that the CDBG will pay for those projects. This next project is ADA, American with Disability Act, curb ramp upgrades, and that will replace approximately 57 curb ramps at the Sundance community and Portobello communities. This next project is Highway 111 and Jefferson Street intersection. Anyone who drives that intersection and cusses out both cities of La Quinta and Indio, hopefully they will stop doing that soon after we repair that intersection. 3/4 of that intersection is within the city of Indio. 1/4 is in the city of La Quinta. But it appears that the majority of the cause of the issue is due to drainage in the 1/4 of the city of La Quinta. So we can blame the city of La Quinta for that one. This next project is a project that was a success. We received a grant of almost $5 million to improve Jackson Street. It's a complete street improvement, and those improvements will enable us to create and install aesthetic shade elements, planting shade, producing in drought-tolerant tree, installing big belly trash receptors, install new sidewalk and replace sidewalk to remove trip hazard. So it's a number of things that we will be doing, and that will extend from Kenner Avenue to Avenue 45. Again, approximately $5 million grant that we received with zero match from the city. So that's great news. This next project is a citywide speed survey. We have to update our speed limits all throughout the city, so to enable us to enforce the speed limits. So that is done every 7 to 10 years, and we are about due. So we will be conducting that speed survey next year. George Street right turn lane, those are improvements that are requested by our partners, Golden Voice, to enable them to ease their maneuvering when they use George Street. So that's a project that will widen that intersection a little bit and improve it so the traffic will flow better. This is another CDBG improvement. Pavement improvement, and that's also includes some ADA upgrades, and this is in the Park Paseo and Zally Ranch communities. So that's totally funded by the CDBG. Miscellaneous median landscape improvements. This is a project that the City Council just added. It's the purpose of it is citywide. We will be able to improve some of the medians with possibly some palm trees and newer shrubs and newer plants. Maybe upgrade the irrigation system as well. So that's a project that's going to be all throughout the city. This next project here, it's a point of entry into the city. As you arrive and enter into the city of Indio off of the freeway, you will notice immediately that there's a big, like a gore area that is very unattractive. And we would like to take a stab at improving the looks of that area. It may be a challenge to add any live material, live plants, but we will at least endeavor to put some hardscaping and improve it to beautify that entry point into the city. So when people are arriving and leaving the city, that will be a feature that they will see when they try to get on the Jefferson Street interchange. Again, another project that is actually, it's Highway 111 median landscape. It's actually Highway 111 corridor landscaping. Highway 111 is a major corridor that goes throughout our city, and it's a very, very important, vital corridor. So we would like to take a stab. We have several medians that are empty. They don't have anything in them. And we've been wanting to do something with them for a long, long time. The idea is to beautify them as much as possible, but to also do something along the parkways. As you see now, as you may, some of you may know or have noticed, we have the fence along Highway 111 to block the blighted view of the empty vacant lots. So hopefully, maybe one of the ideas here is to put some plants similar to what Indian Wells has been doing along Highway 111, but to also beautify the median and install some palm trees and make it look a lot more attractive. This next project is Oasis Road Beautification and Road Diet. If you've been in Palm Desert on San Pablo, you've noticed how they reversed the parking and they put the parking in the middle instead of on the sides, and made it a lot more friendly. So this is a kind of a similar idea to do something like that between Indio Boulevard and Highway 111 on Oasis Street as an entry point into our downtown area. This next project, Avenue 48 Oleander replacement. This is along the Avenue 48 corridor. If you drive by that corridor, you will notice that there are many oleanders that need to be replaced. We've started to plant new plants, the Orange Jubilee, Tacoma, and we need to complete that. So this is a project that we hope to complete and make it look much better and more attractive. Downtown shade trees. Again, we would like to add more shade trees in the downtown area to promote people to walk and enjoy the downtown. Now we have the farmers market and other activities in downtown. So hopefully more shade trees to improve the downtown. Downtown gateway signs, add monument signs identifying the Indio downtown entry points. This is a project in development that we just added to our list here. So it will hopefully, improve the look of the downtown and identify it a little better. Golf Center Parkway at Highway 111, there are corners that are just vacant and desert, and we would like to improve them with some landscaping and hardscaping, and also the median on Golf Center Parkway. So this project hopefully will help us doing that. Shadow Avenue pedestrian improvements. There are some missing sidewalks, sidewalk gaps at that particular community, and we've received a lot of complaints. So it's a small segment. So we would like to take that on and address that and take care of it. Civic Center Storm Drain Project. That's another grant that the city had received. And if you've lived here in the city of Indio for a long time, you know what happens when we have a major rain. That whole downtown area, it just gets flooded and it's underwater. So installing this storm drain, all of these improvements will help with that, but it will also allow us to add more trees and drainage facilities and rain gardens, etc. So it's a number of things that we will be doing. And again, that's a $4.2 million grant that we received. Avenue 44 and Lago Vista Boulevard traffic signal, that is a signal that is needed at that intersection. So we would like to start the design on that traffic signal next year and possibly construct the following year. Solar speed limit readers, that's something that's recommended by our police department. It's the one that flashes your speed when you drive by it. So we'd like to add a few of those all throughout the city. And I think we're proposing to add about 10 of them on areas that that are susceptible to speeding. Street sign, mass arm replacement. So we've been contemplating, if you drive throughout the Coachella Valley, you'll notice, for example, City of Coachella, they have the blue signs on their traffic signals. City of La Quinta has blue signs, blue colored signs. Ours are the green. It's the old tired green. Now we do have a new logo. So we're trying to do a combination of implementing our new logo with possibly blue and just identify the eastern part of the Coachella Valley as the blue sign cities, La Quinta, Indio, and Coachella. So that is something that we are working on. And if we have the opportunity to also upgrade the lighting there into LED and improve those signs. So that's a project that's going to be in the works, but we will also be seeking a grant to do that as well. Indio Sports Park, there was a lot of work that went into the master planning of the sports park. It's the vacant 40-acre lot right across from the DMV on Market Street. And we actually received an $8.1 million grant to do the first phase of it. And as you can see, there's a red area there that's denoting the second phase, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But this is the first phase. It's already funded by the state, and the city will also add another $1 million towards that project to meet the expectations of the community. And it has a lot of great things. The proposed improvements include shade structures, trees, open field space, organized sports, walking path, restrooms, concession buildings, public art, parking lots. It's a beautiful, beautiful project. So we're very excited about that. This next project is South Jackson Park improvements. Those are badly needed improvements on South Jackson. We need to do some ADA upgrades, but also some of the fields are tired and dilapidated, so we need to upgrade them and improve them. So that's a project that's going to happen next year as well. Next project is Downtown Living Room Project, and this is right across, between Miles Avenue and City Hall. There's that corner piece where the old India Hotel used to be. This is where we now hold the second Saturday of every month. We hold the music event, so that's going to be designed with a stage. It's going to be very, very beautiful. And accessible, and it will be fenced off, so it can only be used during certain times, and it won't become, a camp for unwanted folks. So that's a project that's very well on its way. The plans are already done, and we hope to implement this hopefully by the end of this year and start having those events at the living room. And there's the opportunity of closing Miles Avenue temporarily whenever we have this event, so you can actually go into the area where we currently have the music events. John Noble Park, this is a park that is as part of the overall development of the old mall and Indio Marketplace now. So there is a requirement for a park, and that park will also be going in there as well for the community. So this is the Indio Sports Park Phase 2. And that will construct phase 2 of the sports park. The proposed improvements will include adding pickleball courts, volleyball courts, tennis courts, and indoor recreation facilities, basketball courts, and a lot of other wonderful, wonderful things. Now, this phase 2 is now in a planning stage, and it's actually contingent upon us hopefully receiving a major grant that we're applying for. It's in the tune of $35 million for the Jules community. And it's a transformative community grant that we are seeking. We're working on it very, very hard. So if we receive that grant, we'll be able to implement phase 2 of this project. Miles Avenue Skate Park. If you recall, a few years ago, we had a master plan for Miles Avenue Park. And one of the features is to have a skate park. So we will start on that next year. Park and playground equipment. We've done an audit for a lot of our parks, and we need to upgrade many of these parks and improve the playground surfaces and play toy equipments and so on. So that's a project that will enable us to do that. We are actually in talks with the Desert Rec District to take over our parks and manage them for us and bring life to them and activities. So part of the deal is to upgrade them and fix them. I'm sorry, it's a lot of slides. Pickleball courts at Patton Park and Miles Avenue Park. There was a request. We have at Patton Park, I believe we have one tennis court that is hardly used, but there's a great desire for pickleball. So we can, for each tennis court, we can convert it into 4 pickleball courts. So that's one. And the Miles Avenue Park, I believe we have 2 basketball courts that we can convert into pickleball. They're not used very, very often. So we'll seek the input from the community. We may end up keeping just 1 basketball court and then convert the other one into pickleball courts. Dog Park at Miles Avenue. Again, that's part of the master plan. So that will be implemented next year. Emergency generator, that's just a small project. We received a grant for it, is for the Fire Station 1. So we've already purchased the generator, but we will not receive it until next year. But it's on the books as a capital improvement program, so we have to list it. Senior center improvements. There are a few improvements that are needed there, including installing shade fabrics, cover back patio and garden area. So it's just an upgrade to our senior center. Downtown tenant improvements. Those are buildings that we are in talks with folks who will be occupying them. So we just listed those buildings that will be receiving some tenant improvements. And the city is doing some of the funding there. Indio Marketplace, John Noble, again, that's consistent with the other project that we've spoken about, but those are part of the agreement that the city entered into with the marketplace. So we have to put it on the capital improvement program list to fund some of these improvements as per the agreement with the developer. Public Safety Campus, City Hall, and Library. Yay, finally. So we are finally going to build a new public safety campus, and that is going to be right at the current location where the police headquarters is. And that will enable us to finally have a decent, well-built dispatch center for the past probably 15 plus years. We have our dispatch center, our 911 operating out of trailers that we've just had a very hard time just keeping these trailers up and running, because every year we say, oh, next year we're going to build you a new building. etc. Finally, this is going to happen. And it will also upgrade the existing fire station, and we'll get rid of all of these trailers and have a place for our detectives to go in other than trailers, and also have some of the admin staff go into that new facility. It will not replace the current headquarters. The current headquarters will continue to be there, but this is a new facility that will be built to the east of the existing headquarters. But in addition to that, finally, we may be getting a new city hall, or actually we will be getting a new city hall and a new library to replace our 1974 built city hall here that is it's very old building. It's not inviting to businesses. It's every time we have anybody come here, when they look at the city, it's old and tired. The library is the same thing. So we're hoping to have a new building that represents the city much better. There's the former church building on Smyr Street. It's burned on the inside. It's abandoned. It attracts a nuisance. So it's time for it to be demolished, and will be replaced with turf. Downtown facade and signage improvements. So this improves the facade and signage for the buildings downtown to improve the visual characteristics. So that will be a grant program of some sort to allow the current the businesses to improve the facade of these buildings, and it will be a partnership between them and the city. So we'll have a downtown that's, that we are proud of. Museum campus, electrical, insulation, and HVAC. This is a badly needed project that we've been trying to get this implemented. Maybe we shouldn't do that project, Ms. France? No, just kidding. Yeah, so this is a badly needed project, and we're very happy that it will finally happen. So every time they have an event, they go to plug something and they don't have to go and trip 5 breakers. And so it will make it safer, and it will make it a lot better, and it will enable us to have the right air conditioning system. So it's a huge improvement to our Coachella Valley History Museum. Highway 111 corridor facade. This is again another partnership with some of the businesses, 10 to 15 businesses along Highway 111, who would be willing to improve the looks of their buildings on the outside, maybe get rid of some of the old signs that are tired, and improve the facade. So that's again, a step towards improving the entryway into the city. Citywide vehicle and equipment. So our fleet is so old and tired. We have some Crown Victorias that are actually 20 plus years old, that our police department has been trying to replace those, and we've been trying to make them, keep patching them and maintaining them and fixing them. But it's time for us to replace all of the old fleet, and also many of our public works trucks that need to be upgraded and replaced. So that's a project that we'll be working on, except the biggest challenge is there are no cars or trucks to be had. So we'll be chasing our tails on that one, but at least we have the funding for it. This is it. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, do we have any questions? It was a great report. Thank you.
I have some questions, but I'll let my fellow commissioners go first if they'd like to.
Sure.
Go ahead, Vice Chair.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Well, first I want to say very impressive how many projects we are putting down the pipeline. I'm curious as to how many of those are funded. I believe the total number that I saw was 45. Out of the 45, how many of them have funding attached to them? Then I'm also curious if we are preparing an application for some of the ATP funding that is going to be available for this cycle, and then also if any of these are covered potentially under TCC implementation. funds. So
Sure. So all of these projects are actually funded, 100% of them. And as far as the ATP, yes, we are applying for cycle 6 of the ATP. And again, it's part of the Jules community. So we're doing a dual application at the Jules community. We're doing the TCC and the ATP, just in case if we don't get one or the other. But we're endeavoring to get all the sidewalks upgraded and add some urban greening in that community. Now, there are a few projects that we are using because the TCC requires a 50% match. And we can apply up to $35 million. And we're fortunate enough, the Jules community is considered one of the top disadvantaged communities, 10% disadvantaged in the Coachella Valley and in the state. So we have a very, very high probability of getting that grant. And we're very fortunate that we are able to use the grants that we received for the sports park and for the Jackson Street as our match. So we are really looking really, really good and very, very excited about that. We've had one community meeting and it was a big success. And we will have other meetings. And we have our partners joining us to do a lot of things in the Jules community.
fantastic work. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, Tim. I can't tell you how happy I am about the museum. I'm always worried that I'm going to get a call that something started a fire. So this is actually beyond exciting. I'm also super excited about all of these projects that we have needed for so long and that they're all going to be able to be done pretty much simultaneously over the next few years. So it's going to be a huge improvement and change to our community. Continuing the conversation on the Jules community, what is the timeline to know about these grants? Is this something that's going to happen quickly, or is it something that could be a year or two down the road?
No, we will know about it pretty quickly. I believe that the application is due here. Maybe, Mr. Snyder, do you remember when is it? I think it's like early June, maybe, or early July. I think it's in July.
June 15th for the ATP, is my understanding.
June 15th. For the ATP is, but for the TCC, I think it's
July 1.
July 1. And then we should know fairly soon where we stand. And there aren't, as far as we know, we think that there are 3 applications that will be submitted here from the Coachella Valley. We think that the city of Coachella may be submitting one, and the city of, or rather the county is submitting one. But again, we have the most disadvantaged community. And just as a point of information, we actually received a grant to prepare the TCC plan itself. So that was funded, and actually gave us more leverage to submit this application. So we're looking pretty good.
This is wonderful. I can't tell you how excited I am about all the projects. And just for the record, for those of you that don't know, I am a board trustee for the Coachella Valley History Museum, but we are a nonprofit board, so I do not have any conflict. And I'm super excited to continue the relationship with the city-owned property that we manage. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. Also, not really any questions. Actually, are there any of these projects that were maybe part of the plan for the previous fiscal year, like 21, 22, and we were not able to start them for any reason? Because it seems like we have a lot on deck, for this next year, and really exciting to see, everything that we have planned.
Don't remind me. Actually, I believe all of these projects are new. The 40 plus projects that you saw here are in addition to what we've had from last year. And all in all, I think we're talking about something in the tune of $95 million worth of projects. And that's not including if we start on the interchange, or when we start on the interchange, Monroe Street, we actually secured our share of the Monroe Street interchange. And that's a project that's in the tune of $80 million. And we're a lot closer. We've already cleared the environmental on that one. We are in the design and right-of-way phases. So that project will happen in the next couple of years, and the City of India's share is already secured. So it's very exciting. A lot of projects.
That's great to hear. I was really happy to hear how many of these projects are funded by grants as well. Excellent job on that, securing funding. I'm really excited about the sports park. I've been hearing, rumors and discussion about that going back for years. So I'm really glad that we were able to put that plan into action soon. I will briefly mention I don't know what was the word that you called it, the Oasis Street diet or kind of renovation. You referenced the San Pablo area, I believe, in Palm Desert and the center of the street parking. My experience with that area it's been kind of problematic, and I know that Oasis is not maybe as heavily trafficked as San Pablo, but I've seen a lot of issues, people trying to get in and out, blocking streets, blocking the roundabout in that area. So that's just something to think of. I hope we do a real thorough kind of traffic study on that.
Thank you, if I may, Chair.
Please.
I will go ahead and again, I was just there before this meeting, and it's beautiful, the San Pablo area, and I almost got hit because when I parked in the middle and I came out and the car didn't see me coming really fast. So yeah, that's can be a little bit problematic there. There's a few things, since I have you here, and I didn't see them on your list of projects, but if I didn't ask these questions, I know that some of the constituents have brought this to my attention. Number one, I guess, is speed bumps in certain parts of the community. There's some neighborhoods that are asking about like having certain speed bumps. There's some folks that drive really fast. One that sounds out of mind, because I get phone calls about it all the time, is on Caribe Street off of Jackson and 48, right across from the Walmart shopping center. I don't know if there's been any kind of traffic studies there or any other communities like that where we have complaints about high traffic, speeding. And we had that one incident, of course, 2 streets down, off of 48 and Oasis Street. But is there anything in your plan to kind of take a look at some of those communities where you have folks like drag racing down those in family communities in residential homes?
So that is a matter that we always refer to our police department, and they evaluate. They usually put the speed trailer out there, and sometimes they put it as a stealth just to get a real feel of what the speed issues are. And then if they determine that they need to take certain measures, they will increase enforcement. As far as speed bumps or speed humps, we do have a city policy that any community, if there's a residential street that they would like to request and possibly fund speed humps, then we will consider it, and we will run it by our public facility folks, fire and police. From previous experience, many communities talk about how much they want speed humps and speed bumps until they get them, and then they just hate them, because what people do is they just go over the speed hump and then speed up and cause a lot of noise until they get to the next one, and so on. So it's not always the best way to calm traffic. There are other ways of calming traffic that we can look at. But if we have an issue and we receive a complaint, then we do look at it. I saw the city engineer noted down the street, the particular street that you've referenced, and we'll be checking with our transportation consultant to see what the issues are, if any, there.
I believe that that's not a gated community. So when you say the community has to funded? How does that come about? Because there's no HOA, there's like no Melrose. It's just how do you get the community to participate or approve such or fund such a speed hump or bump?
So they would do the petition. So if someone is interested in doing that, we have the policy, and they will solicit signatures. And if they receive enough signatures, then they will go there. But I see the city engineer, Mr. Raya, has something to add.
Chairperson and Planning Commissioners, Juan Reyes, City Engineer. Recently, we learned that the fire code does not allow for us to consider speed humps. It affects the emergency response. So we do explore other options to try to mitigate the concerns of the residents. So that is something that we need to consider moving forward, that we are restricted by the fire code.
Okay. So for that community, they would have to, again, petition or call the police department to have a traffic study, or maybe one of these solar study lights or speed limit, perhaps?
Correct. That would be the options that we will explore before we forward it to our police department.
Got it.
Enhancing speed limit signs and make sure they're at the right locations to warn residents as they enter the community to
Okay.
keep their speed at the 25 for residential streets.
Okay, maybe you can help me with this next question. Or bike lanes, is that in your radar to expand or take a look at some of our current bike lanes or lack of?
So we've implemented a lot of new bike lanes. I mean, of course, if you saw Avenue 48, now we have the bike lanes on that. But we do have a master plan for all the bike lanes to be added in the city. And whenever we have the opportunity, like when we did the road diet on Avenue 44, we added the bike lanes there, and we narrowed down because it was a pretty wide road. So we were able to add the bike lanes. So we're always looking at adding bike lanes whenever it's possible.
But it's not in the report.
But
Or-
yeah, nothing is in particular here. But
Okay.
the ATP that was referenced, the Active Transportation Plan, is to promote non-motorized.
Got it.
So whenever we are able to add the sidewalks, those are safe route to school, and kids will be able to ride their bicycles on the sidewalk and so on.
Okay. There was I had a question, and it was like on the first part, you said something about repairing some lights it was CDBG funds. What neighborhood was that? I didn't catch that. It was like maybe the third or fourth slide, and you had some funding for light repair. It was CDBG funds, but I didn't catch the street or where that was located. I was trying to zoom in.
Sure. The exhibit that was shown is what we identify as the CDBG eligible area. It's bounded by, I'm going to say, Clinton to the west, 111 to the south, Indio Boulevard, and north up to south of the freeway.
Okay, so you're talking about Central Indio and North Indio.
Yes, mainly central Indio.
Okay,
There we go.
past it.
One more. There.
There, yes. Oh,
One more.
wait.
Up. There we go.
There,
That's
yes.
it.
I
Mhm.
couldn't identify where that was located.
So you got in 111 and green going east to west.
Okay.
So down to Avenue 48.
Okay.
Can we share that screen so that we can see it on Zoom as well, please? Okay, so it's the area highlighted in blue, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I have my glasses on too, so it's kind of hard to see. But okay, thank you for clarifying that. I think that's it for now. But I just wanted to again comment and seeing the investment made for the Dr. Carrion Park. That is where I grew up, and my family has been a part of the Dr. Carrion Foundation and the naming of the park and the street and the school. So again, I just wanted to thank you for that and that investment. It used to be a dirt lot. Now we have a beautiful art structure, and I was in DC at the time. I couldn't make the the ribbon cutting ceremony. But I just want to say thank you for improving that part of Indio, and it's beautiful. So thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, fellow commissioners, for your comments. Thank you for the report. I think safe to say that we're all very excited to see these improvements coming. I suppose maybe we should have done this before commissioner comments, but do we have, if we want to open the public hearing, do we have any public comments on this item? Vanessa?
There are none.
And just as a point of clarification, this is not a public hearing item.
Okay.
Chair, would you like me to make a motion if we're ready?
Please.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2025, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Indio, California, finding that the 2022-2023 capital improvement program of the City of Indio Public Works Department is consistent with the current City General Plan 2040.
I'll second.
Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Franz,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Rodriguez Saha,
Yes.
Chairperson Isiano.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Exciting, thank you. Okay, moving on to study session items. First item 5.1 is a project consultation for an Oasis Street 20-unit mixed-use project.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Alyssa Suarez, Acting Senior Planner with the Community Development Department. The item before you is item 5.1, Oasis Street 20-unit mixed-use development project. This is a project consultation in a study session format, so no action is being requested to be taken today. This is strictly informational, and the applicant is seeking preliminary feedback from the Planning Commission. So here's an overview of the project. The applicant is the Ashai Design Consulting Corporation. This project is located in the downtown area. It is located on the west side of Oasis Street, south of Indio Boulevard. The project location is currently designated as downtown under the general plan designation, and it has a current zoning of downtown neighborhood and retail ready overlay in the downtown specific plan. The downtown specific plan does require that all new projects within the downtown area go through a project consultation process prior to formal submittal of an application. So as I mentioned, this project is located on the west side of Oasis Street, south of Indio Boulevard, across 2 vacant lots. The applicant is proposing to develop a 20-unit mixed-use building across these 2 vacant parcels in the downtown area. The residential portion of the project would include a 4-story, 20-unit residential development, and the 4th-story would be a mezzanine feature. The project would also include a community pool, a courtyard entry, a parking structure on the ground floor, and required landscaping plans. The project also aims to incorporate a commercial retail space, such as a cafe or some sort of storefront on the frontage of the property along Oasis Street. So here is a proposed site plan of what the project would look like in regard to the 20 units on the northern portion. And then there are also ADA handicap accessible units on the south portion of the project. And then on the southeast quarter of the lot would be the retail commercial building. So here are the proposed project elevations, and the applicant will go into much more detail of these renderings. But as you can see, there is a very modern facade, which is identified by the downtown specific plan and encouraged. As you know, the city is moving more towards the modern facade rather than the Spanish and Mediterranean feel. So the applicant is proposing a mix of colors. It looks like a gray hue with blue tinted windows, and the northern portion of the mezzanine would be a white hue. And so from here, I will open the floor for the applicant to present unless the Planning Commission has any questions for staff.
I have a quick question, Chair, if I may.
Certainly.
I'm just curious if currently the conditions that are being added to the zoning. So I know that we were talking about a more robust landscape and all of these. Are all these considerations being taken as we're moving something like this forward, or are we keeping those separate?
So this project is specifically within the downtown specific plan, so it wouldn't be, to my knowledge, from what is being proposed in the zoning update, it would fall under those standards in the downtown specific plan. It wouldn't be subject to the new zoning requirements. But yes, there are full landscaping requirements, design elements that are in Chapter 3 of the downtown specific plan that they would have to oblige to.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner questions or comments for staff? No, if not, then are we opening a public hearing? Zach, to hear from the applicant?
Yeah, just as a point of clarification, this is a study session item, so it'll be a kind of a little more free flowing to the extent that the chair desires. We will take public comment if submitted at some point, but you can proceed with having the applicant present, and commissioners can ask questions and provide feedback throughout at the discretion of the chair.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and hear from the applicant. And at some point, we will open the floor to see if there's any public comments virtually or in person. Thank you. Let's go ahead and hear from the applicant.
Thank you, commissioners. My name is Tony Ashai. I'm here with Billy Ashai, and we're also with two investors in these projects. We have two similar projects. One is a 20 unit, one is a 30 unit. I would like to discuss both of them together because they're very similar projects. But to give you an overview, actually, let me give you a little background how we came across with these projects. I'm an architect and an urban designer, and I also do development. So I've worked all over the world, and I was in Coachella Valley, and I had never been to India. And so we just actually took a wrong turn on Highway 111, and we ended up in this beautiful kind of downtown. And I was just curious. I said, this is a great place here. And then there was a for sale sign, and we looked at the properties, and they were reasonably priced. So we have both these properties in escrow. Then we met the development chief, was director of community development, and the director of planning. And I have to tell you, they were most friendly and so helpful. That is very rare anywhere you go today. We're doing projects in Long Beach, Los Angeles, Pasadena. It's a completely different attitude. And why we're here today before you is because of those two gentlemen that we met in a conference room, and they gave us their presentation, and they were so helpful. We said, we have to come and do something in the city. And I'm so excited. I just saw the presentation by the chief of the public works that all these things are happening in downtown. I think our timing may be perfect. We're just about to take off on this downtown. And being an urban designer, I would actually suggest a few things to the community director and the planning director in a separate meeting, how to make this downtown more lively. But as far as these two projects are concerned, what we were told is, because we're in escrow on both these properties, we want to make sure that actually our investors, more than us, they want to make sure that these two projects are close to what you would accept. We're not completely off the chart. And then we will remove contingencies and close these properties and start the project. So right now it's still depending on what we hear from you regarding these two projects. And we're not expecting an approval or any action from you, but we're expecting some sort of okay, this is something that we will accept. You're on the right track, or this is good. We don't see any problem with it. Or if there's a problem, that these are the things that we see as a problem. That's what we're expecting from this meeting. Now, what I'm going to do is Billy Ashai, who is a graduate from USC Architecture with Masters. He's working on these two projects, and I would have him explain the project quickly in about 5 minutes. Can you just explain the
Sure.
design philosophy?
Sure. So both of these projects are more or less produced from an urban design standpoint. We are aiming to do things more related to bringing more eyes onto the street, having fronting a lot of the social program in our project to Oasis Street, the right of way, having all of the car access towards the back alley so that Oasis Street becomes more pedestrian. And both of these projects kind of are working towards catalyzing Oasis Street as a secondary gateway that Indio wants it to be as per General Plan 2040. So I'll just get to it. Clicker doesn't seem to be working.
There you go.
Okay. So
Just go to the plans and sort of
okay.
Plans. I think they already seen.
All right. So the site is on the corner of Oasis Street and Indio Boulevard, more or less. It's a double lot. It's about 100 feet by 150. It's adjacent to a single family home. It's a 7-minute walk from the College of the Desert, which we're aware is expanding. And this is a survey site plan, which we've already reviewed. We're proposing 21 parking spaces with 1 handicap. We're proposing amenities like a pool, a deck, a lounge area. We're going to have 1 corner retail space. We would like that to be possibly a cafe or a sports bar, something of the like, so that there's more pedestrian engagement to Oasis Street. We're going to have 1 2-bedroom, 2-bath unit, 1 bedroom, 1 bath unit, and 1 manager's unit. These would be ADA units. Okay.
Go to the next one.
Yeah. Sorry. There you go. And this is the 2nd floor. And this would just be a mix of 3 2-bed, 2-bath units and 6 1-bed, 1-bath units. Both of these projects, they're 1-bed, 1-bath units and 2-bed, 2-bath units. And we have an intention of renting them out at market rate, since the Regional Housing Needs Association, their housing units that they've tasked to be produced is about 7,800 units, and most of them fall within average median income or like above median income. This would be the 3rd floor, which would be majority 2-bedroom units with the mezzanine, and the mezzanine would be up above. So even though in height wise it's a 4-story building, access wise it's a 3-story building. So yeah, and it would be a total of 20 units between these 9 and that should be 11. Every unit is going to have balconies and decks. So yeah, every unit's going to have balconies that range between 57.5. We can make that 60 square feet if need be, and decks. So they're going to have private open space and public open space. And they'll have access to plenty of amenities like the pool and lounge area. And that's the mezzanine. And this is the unit breakdown. The ADA units are strictly on the ground level, and then up above we're going to have the typical units, type 1A and type 2A. Type B2 and or B1. But yeah. This is like elevations of the projects. We're aiming for having something that is, well, it's a highly modular building, but facade wise, elevation wise, it's going to be a building of modern architecture. We are suggesting something like gray hardy frame and white stucco. So there is some reference to kind of like stucco Spanish architecture in some degree, but for the most part, it's a like Southern California contemporary building. We're going to have a corner store, so this is going to be either a store or even a cafe, or just a retail space. That's the 20 unit. And then the third unit is more or less the same.
I think she's going to have to explain the 30 unit, then you're going to have to.
Oh, okay. Right. So
Ask them if they have any.
do you have any questions currently?
Vice Chair, if I may.
Yeah, please.
I'm sorry, Chairperson. I'm reading my own. I have a question. I'm just curious, why not maximize the fact that you're having, a pretty elevated design to maximize the architecture and maybe expand larger units that are more that have some additional features. I'm just curious as to, I know that the facade is not very modular, but very consistent throughout. And so I'm just curious, why not take advantage of those higher levels to kind of play around and add some more, some more features and play with the design. And the only reason that I'm asking the question is because, I know that cost is very important. So it seems like you might have the opportunity to get more for your buck, I guess, by doing that. So it's just a question.
Wait,
I just want to know, can I ask you to please, I don't understand what you mean when you say why not go. Are you saying why aren't you building to the max FAR? Like build more units or build more height? Go high.
I'm actually asking more about is there a possibility to maybe expand you said they're all going to have decks, right? Or patios, or I don't remember that.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if there is a way to play with the shape to have different options so that you could, as you're maximizing the fact that it's pretty high already, to have more options. Here's where this is coming from, right? It's just that people really enjoy having a unique or something that is different. It seems like everything is very much a repeat. And so I'm wondering, and it's not a suggestion to change it, I guess. I'm just curious because I liked all the things that you were saying earlier about the philosophy behind the design. And so I'm just curious as to if that is something that you have done or maybe having considered.
Let me answer that question, Billy, if that's okay. One of the things that we're doing is we're among the first people coming in and building apartments in downtown. You don't have any apartments of this caliber in downtown. So we have to be very conscious of what to spend on this downtown, because we don't know how much rent we're going to be able to get, and the numbers have to work at the end of the day. And when you build something modular, like I think what you are suggesting is all the units are similar. They're like, repeat. My experience to that is, I worked in Dubai, and I'm an architect too, by the way. I worked all over the place. When you do similar modular units, your overall cost is much less than when you do every unit that's unique. For example, I'm giving you an idea. And the price difference could go like 30 to 40% higher cost of construction. Like give you an example, when you're buying 20 kitchens that look identical in shape, size, and everything, it's one price versus 20 different kitchens when there are different sizes and different colors and different textures. Now, it's fortunately for us, we only live in one unit. And there's only one family that experiences that unit from inside. So what we have done is from outside to make sure it doesn't look like a modular that's being repeated. So the elevation has been treated in such a way so it looks unique through materials, through massing, landscaping, and that kind of stuff. So while I understand and appreciate your comment, if this was in Beverly Hills, yes, every unit would be different, and people would pay like $5 million for a unit or pay $20,000 a month rent. But we're just trying to fit what would be and also do better than what's out there. So that's the reason for what we have done.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I figured that cost was probably what. And really, I think we're really interested in folks that are interested in investing in our downtown. I think soon enough, we will be better than Beverly Hills, and we will.
I'm 100% sure of that, because I have seen cities. I've seen Dubai from 2006 to now. It's become a monumental city, and I have seen cities like Long Beach was nothing. It was homeless people, and the whole downtown of Long Beach has completely changed. So I've seen cities transform, and this, I believe, I can bet my money on this city that this downtown is going to be something that's going to attract a lot of people here, and they're going to live here, and they're going to get that urban feeling, which is missing in Coachella Valley. Anywhere, there's nowhere else that you can find that urban feeling. We just need to get some Starbucks down here in the corner.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments. Thank you for answering the question.
Anything else?
Commissioner Franz, you have some comments?
Yes. Hi.
Yes.
Thank you. First of all, I am sitting here looking at our downtown specific plan, which I do keep a hard copy within reach. And I think that your project, I think you did your homework and went through our downtown specific plan. And I think the meeting with our wonderful staff members was very beneficial, because overall, I think it's a really nice addition and could be, very game changer for our downtown. I love the fact that it's modern. It has color. I love like the orangey colored doors, dark red, whatever that is. It just kind of changes everything. The blue glass, I think, was a great addition. The fact that you came in with the patios and the outdoor living and the pool and wanting to put a cafe. I mean, it kind of brought in all of the things that we have been talking about for quite a long time. We talked about patio size. I always believe that outside living, when you live in a small apartment, being able to sit out on a patio is priceless. So if you could do that 60-foot or a little bit larger instead of a little bit smaller patios, I think that would be also a game changer, and differentiate your project. I think it's a beautifully designed, it's a great use of the space. And I love the fact that the parking will be on the ground floor, so we're not adding another parking lot somewhere else. But people still have to park their cars. But overall, I think you guys did a good job and did a lot of homework looking at our downtown specific plan and what our community could need. And I think a store or a cafe either, or maybe two small items, a small cafe and a small store could probably be beneficial, to the residents that might live there in the future. But for one, I'm excited to see, more details. I know this is very preliminary and there's probably a lot of things that we don't know and we don't know how to ask. I saw that there were solar on the roofs on some of the designs. So I'm assuming you're looking to put in solar. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't
Yes, we are.
Wonderful. Okay. So overall, I think it could be a great addition to our downtown, and I look forward to getting, more details and more information on the project.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Commissioner Lopez, any comments or questions?
Again, I just wanted to, Gloria kind of took the words, as Commissioner Franz kind of took the words out of my mouth here, but it's a great addition. You're right. As far as the Coachella Valley, other cities don't actually have this unique plan in place where it's modern and it's, you have mixed use and shops at the bottom. I was actually in Long Beach this weekend and I got to go down and it's changed
So much.
Yes.
Yes.
So appreciate that. And I guess I have a point of reference, for staff really quick. Do we have any other housing or apartments? I thought we had maybe a few more in the pipeline, or is this the only one?
Hi, this is Kevin Snyder, Director of Community Development. Actually, there is an approved project at the northwest corner of Oasis and Bliss. The Planning Commission approved a 70-unit, over 7,000 square feet mixed-use development. That project is still in the construction document stages, but this would be, if these projects move forward, they would be the second and third entitlements under the downtown specific plan. But you have approved one previously. That was right after the downtown specific plan was adopted in April 2020.
Got it. Okay. Again, I love the modern look, and it fits well with some of our homes that have the old modern look in off of a Bliss and Oasis street. And so again, it's just like to thank you for that. That's it.
Thanks. Are there any
Go ahead.
Sorry. Are there any general red flags you're all kind of identifying through the design or anything, just generally speaking?
Generally speaking, I think, speaking for some of the other commissioners, from what I heard, we're excited. We like the general design. We look forward to seeing things in more detail. I, for one, also appreciate your enthusiasm for our downtown area of Indio. I'm glad you made that wrong turn and discovered but definitely, there's been talk for many years, and really excited to see, things that the city of Indio is doing to improve downtown, and also developers such as yourselves bringing projects to us. We can see it, down at the end of the pipeline. It's exciting.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for your presentation. We've heard from the commissioners. Do we want to do we have any public comments on this item, Vanessa?
There are none.
Go ahead.
Are we going to hear about the 30 unit and what the difference is between, because I think they just kind of went over in detail on the 20 unit, but we still need to talk about the 30 unit, right?
Yes.
Yeah, correct. Are we handling that, Kevin, as a completely separate item, or are we kind of melding those two together, 5.1 and 5.2?
Well, they were agendized separately. I think the applicant had kind of talked a little bit about both, but perhaps the applicant and Alyssa may want to touch briefly on the 30 unit to maybe answer Commissioner Franz's questions of the differences, and then any other highlights that they want to make the commission aware of.
One of our clarification too, since they were both agendized, when we move on to the specific 5.3 discussion of the believe that's, or sorry, 5.2, the 30 unit, you might want to just check and see if any public comment was submitted specifically for the 30 unit project as well, once we move on to that portion. Chair.
Okay, certainly. So we've heard 5.1, no public comments. I guess we can go to 5.2 then. Alyssa, did you have any staff presentation that was different from the original presentation? And then if we like to or need to ask the applicant more questions after that, we can do so.
Yes, thank you. I will be giving a presentation.
Thank you.
So again, this is Alyssa Suarez, Acting Senior Planner with the Community Development Department. The item before you is item 5.2, the Oasis Street 30-unit mixed-use project. So this project is located on the west side of Oasis Street and south of Requa Avenue. The applicant is proposing to develop a 30-unit mixed-use building across 3 vacant parcels in the downtown area. This is similar to the project we just heard. It's actually very similar in design as well as function, with the 30-unit residential units including 1 to 2 bedroom units and the incorporation of a community pool, courtyard entry, parking structure, required landscaping, as well as the intent to incorporate a commercial retail space on the frontage of the property. Again, this project is located in the downtown area. It is currently designated as downtown under the current general plan, and it has a current zoning of downtown neighborhood and a retail-ready overlay within the downtown specific plan. Here is an overview of the project location. Again, it's just south of Requa Avenue and west of Oasis Street. Here is the proposed site plan showing the configuration of the 30 units as well as the ADA units. That would be 2 units and a manager's unit. And then there's also the courtyard with the pool features, as well as the retail space along the frontage of Oasis Street. So very similar in design as the previous proposal we just heard, with respect to the modern facade, the color facade that we are seeing with the gray hues, as well as the white stucco, similar with the blue hues on the windows, and desert-friendly landscaping along the frontage and sides of the property. And so with that, I will open the floor to any questions, and I will also hand it off to the applicant to give their presentation. Thank you.
Any commissioner questions for staff, or are we ready to hear from the applicant, please?
What? It's there. Okay. Do I have to reintroduce myself?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. I'm Billy Ashai with Ashai Design. We're the architects and developers for this 30-unit mixed-use multifamily proposal on Oasis Street. This proposal, like the other 20-unit proposal, is conceived as as more of an urban design response to the downtown specific plan and the general plan 2040 of the city of Indio. Its design promotes a more pedestrian-friendly Oasis Street with more eyes on the street by implementation of balconies and decks with each unit, each housing unit, and it proposes a lot of outdoor open space, recreational space, pools, lounge areas, barbecues, decks, and kind of like shade structures, as you can see. I'm going to quickly go through all of the plans and then kind of discuss the site location, the site plan, and other such things. So this project proposes 30 market rate multifamily housing units with 34 protected parking, a corner commercial retail space. It's promoted. It will promote a local place of gathering and bring more pedestrian activity to Oasis Street by having a corner retail space, by having a corner like coffee shop or sports bar or restaurant, what have you, and yeah, kind of fronting a lot of that resident-oriented recreational activity to Oasis Street. Its goal is to, again, minimize the City of Indio's 7,800 unit housing deficit defined by RHNA, bring more eyes to the street, and more actively catalyze resident engagement with Oasis Street as the City of Indio pursues to create a more critical urban core. So this is the site location. It's 150 feet by 150 feet. It's adjacent to law offices, and it's a 3-minute walk from the College of the Desert. As the College of the Desert expands, it will be more or less across the street, perceivably across the street. These are the survey plan shows the 3 lots. We're proposing a 34 unit protected parking with kind of a like U-shaped access driveway from the alleyway. This is to promote more of the dedicate more of the frontage towards pedestrian engagement with Oasis Street. We're promoting a pool, a spa, jacuzzi area, a lounge, like barbecue area, and an entry courtyard for the residents. There's going to be 2 ADA units on the ground level, and there's also going to be a general manager's, property manager's unit, which would be excluded from the unit count. There's also going to be a retail space, which was mentioned in the project narrative, to promote more of the pedestrian engagement. We've already discussed this. This is the second floor. This consists of 14 units total, 6 2-bedroom, 2-bath units, and 8 1-bedroom, 1-bath units. Basically, every unit has access to outdoor space, decks, or balconies. And there's a central atrium. All of the egress access is outdoors. And yeah, and then this is the 3rd floor, which is 6 2-bed, 2-bath units, 7 2-bed, 2-bath units. They're different unit types. One has the mezzanine, the other is just a 1-story, 2-bedroom unit. And then there's 1-bed, 1-bath unit. So on the 2 floors above, it's 28 units plus the 2 ADA units, a total of 30. 2 means of egress, open to air, balconies for each unit. The plans that you see in this roof plan are the mezzanines for the 2-bed, 2-bath units that are for the floor below. This is, the access to these units would be from the floor below. This is the unit breakdown showing the ADA units, the access, like showing the ADA units, showing the typical units, and showing the 2-bed, 2-bath unit, which involves a mezzanine, which is used on the uppermost floor. This is normal elevation. There's a front elevation that kind of emphasizes the cafe and the front property entrance. And then there's the front elevation after that. the colored elevation, again, the use of white stucco, use of maybe gray stucco, and then like we're intending to use gray hardy frames. Ideally, we would like to have this more or less act as a like sister development to the 20 unit development. If there's an issue with variety in terms of streetscape, that can be very easily accommodated for. We're willing to change up the urban identity of the building slightly through change of exterior materials or colors, things like that. And this would be a corner cafe or a sports bar with balconies off of the units. And then, yeah. Any questions?
Commissioners, anyone have a question?
I'll let Jackie go first.
I have none.
All right, Gloria.
All right, fine. I tried. Yeah, I mean, I think it's very interesting that you're looking at two different projects basically on the same main street, just a little bit of a distance apart. Of course, we are in need of these kinds of units. So, I'm very excited to see two projects. I don't dislike that the outside are similar. They will be complementary to each other. I think a little bit of color variation would be nice just to separate the two so they're not, somebody gets home really tired and they walk into the wrong building or something. But especially if there's a sports bar on one and not on the other. But maybe a little bit of color variation. Other than that, I mean, I think, like I said, I think you guys really looked at our downtown specific plan, and I'm so happy to see that because you hit a lot of those points that we've really worked hard to try to bring in. But overall, I mean, I think if both of these projects were built, I think they're both needed, and they're a great addition because of College of the Desert expanding, and these entry level units are in high demand, in our community and in a lot of communities. So overall, I don't see any major issues. Like I said, we need a lot more details, of course, and at that point we might have more questions and comments. But at this point, I find both the projects very interesting.
Great. Thanks.
I just want to echo Commissioner Friend's comments, and I agree that a little color variation that could be done through the landscape plan also, maybe just adding a variety of trees and plants to change the feel a little bit. But I think I would be also interested in some other color accents and just to liven up and create a little bit more of a diversity out there in the downtown, so that we get more and more of these types of projects. And so, yeah, we're really excited. Housing, is a need across the state, and particularly here in our city. So we're very, very excited to see these types of projects, and particularly the concentration of the mixed use and providing the opportunity for the mixed use design, as a starter. So I just want to say I commend you for really doing some really good work, and we're really excited to see.
Thank you.
I should say I'm excited, but I can hear the comments from my colleagues.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that myself and fellow commissioners are all excited to see more details on these. I do agree that there are some similarities between the two, but also some subtle differences. So perhaps any thoughts or consideration into mixing up a little bit of the color schemes or landscape schemes, such as like Commissioner Vice Chair recommended, that would be great. But again, we thank you for bringing these two projects. You asked if we saw any major red flags or things that stood out to us, and I don't think there's anything that we'd like to see besides just some more details when this actually comes before Planning Commission to really dive into and look at it in more depth.
Great. One of our investors and partners on this project wants to say a few words, if that's okay.
Yes, certainly.
Cool.
Thank you, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Commissioners. I think the whole point as an investor for me was to make sure what you said at the end, that there are no red flags, concerns, or more importantly, there's no conflict with something else that city might be planning on that street or across the street that later on would make it difficult for us to really build the way we want to build it and have it rented. So very glad to hear that's not happening. And as Tony said, who we're lucky to have, because he's such a world-renowned architect to design these. And he said earlier that his goal was to really follow the plan the city has and have more pedestrian activity on the Oasis Street. So we're at the end of the day, that's our goal too, to make sure that happens. I just wanted to make sure that if there were any follow-ups that we needed to make, any things that you felt would help us expedite this process, because once we go, we're not seeking any exterior funding. So all the money to complete the projects is, ready to go. We're not seeking a loan from the bank. So we're kind of recession-proof in a way. This project will happen either way. So any guidance that you can see, oh, this would help, or that would expedite, or you should look into doing, meeting such and such person, anything, we can follow up afterwards. But I just wanted to express that we weren't just seeking red flags, we're also seeking some additional guidance, because this is new city for us, and we don't know much about Indio other than the fact Tony took a wrong turn that one day. Thank you.
Okay, sir, would you mind stating your name for the record so we have your comments on record?
Sure. My name is Shafat Qazi. That's Qazi is the last name. Shafat is Shafat.
Thank you so much. And Kevin, do you want to address that last comment or question of his? I'm sure staff would be more than willing to, give them guidance and work them through the process, right?
Most certainly. We have met with the team initially, and we'll be happy to meet with them again. And we'll make sure that to go over some of the points that the commission made this evening and continue to look further at the downtown specific plan. As a reminder, if and when they do make complete applications for both projects, those are subject to planning commission review, as Senior Planner Suarez noted earlier. And because we have completed an environmental impact report previously for the downtown specific plan, it's CEQA cleared, and therefore the city has committed to a 90-day or less review period. So that, I think, was also attractive to the applicant when we met. So we're happy to work with them at their convenience and bring forward projects, for consideration and review by the commission, incorporating your comments this evening.
Thank you so much.
Outstanding. Glad to hear that. Before we move on, is the applicant there? Do you have another comment you'd like to add?
Yes, I would like. Yeah, one more of our partners wants to speak. His name's Shobi Qazi. Right.
Hi, good evening. My name is Shobi Qazi, Shobie, last name Qazi Qazi. I just wanted to thank you guys for considering this project today. First of all, I wanted to give you a little background. I got on board on this project just because of Tony, because I could not believe that he wanted to do a project here, because him being busy all over the world, and then he comes with this project, and I had not even seen the project or the city, or I said, if your name's on it, I'm on board. I'm a real estate developer, so me being a real estate developer, he being an architect, I said it's no brainer, and we have funding already in place. So we thought, okay, this could be a good start. And if this goes, gets a green light, and this could be the beginning, and we could just move ourselves here, basically do more projects. If this could be a just good start, I just wanted to let you know that we are solid. We are, we know what we're doing. We do this for a living. I develop real estate all over the Southern California, and Tony has design projects all over the world, and here in Celebrity Homes, and here in Dubai, and wherever in London, whatever. So I'm actually more excited to work with him on this project, because his name's on the project. So that gives me a very exciting feeling to do. So I just wanted to let you know, just to close the discussion with that. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? No? Okay. All right. Yeah, that's it. All right. Cool.
Thank you so much for bringing both of these before us, and we're looking forward to seeing more details. Before we move on beyond this item, Vanessa, do we have any public comments on 5.2 on the 30-unit mixed-use project?
There are none.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Being that there are no more comments, we'll go ahead and move on to 5.3. Please review and discussion of draft Article 6.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Right. Good evening, Planning Commission. Again, Kevin Snyder, Director of Community Development. So this evening, we are conducting our 6th and final study session with the Planning Commission on the draft Unified Development Code. This will be on Article 6, which is Administration plus Procedures. And as the Commission is aware, the staff and our consultant team, Ramey Associates, has been developing a Unified Development Code that is in essence, a guidebook, combined guidebook of the city's land use and development regulations, all in one handbook, if you will. So that the goal is to have a one place where citizens, property owners, developers, and other interested parties can go and get all their information in one place rather than having to go to this code section and that code section. So we have been going through these study sessions with the Commission. Again, this is our 6th and final study session with you. And you are now very familiar with Alessandra and Simran from Ramey Associates, and they're going to be leading you through a presentation. As the Commission is aware, at our last meeting, we had this discussion, a preliminary discussion on the topic of administrative reviews versus Planning Commission reviews. And I provided that feedback to Alessandra and Simran, and expect you'll have some additional feedback for them this evening. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alessandra and Simran, and they will take you through this presentation.
Yes. Good evening. Good evening, Chairperson Isiano and fellow commissioners. As Kevin mentioned, I'll be presenting on this item. My name is Alessandra Lundin, and I am an associate at Ramey Associates. And I also have Simran Malhotra, principal at Ramey Associates, here with me this evening. Let me just share my screen and set this up properly for a second. Okay, hopefully this will work. All right, is everyone seeing the presentation and not the kind of presenter version?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Thank you. All right. So the main purpose, as Kevin mentioned, of this presentation is to provide an overview of Article 6, Administration and Procedures of the Indio Draft Unified Development Code. And we'll follow that with questions and discussion. And then at the end, as usual, I will also go through next steps and upcoming meetings for the draft code. Kevin covered a lot of this already, but again, the Unified Development Code will replace the current Chapter 159 zoning regulations and Chapter 150 billboards and signs in the municipal code. And the high level or the key goals of this project and updating the code are to ensure consistency with the 2040 general plan, to comply with recent state and federal legislation, particularly on housing, and really just to modernize the code, make it more legible, usable, and improve and streamline permits and procedures, which we'll discuss. There we go. just as another recap, we sent a mailer out to all residents previously. We have more information on the project website, along with interactive parcel-based maps on the general plan and zoning changes. And then, as Kevin mentioned, this is the 6th in a series of Planning Commission study sessions on the draft code. The next meeting related to this project is the Riverside County Airport Land Use Commission review on June 9th. And then a citywide notification of upcoming Planning Commission and City Council hearings on the code will be sent out in the next few weeks. So just as a quick reminder, this slide provides kind of the high-level table of contents for the code. We discussed Article 2, zone regulations, Article 3, citywide standards, which included the sign code, and Article 4, special uses in previous study sessions. And then Article 5 will be subdivision regulations, which will be updated at a later date. And then lastly, we come to tonight's meeting, which is Article 6, the last article, administration and procedures. And now getting into a little bit more of the details on Article 6, this slide provides an overview of the high-level chapters and organization of the article. And I'll go into more detail on a few of these sections on the next slides. But at a high level, we have purpose, the review and decision-making bodies, common procedures, permits and approvals, other types of plans, such as specific plans, general plan and zoning amendments, all of the non-conforming provisions, and then enforcement and abatement. So chapter 6.03 includes regulations on common procedures, such as application forms and fees, pre-application review, which we can kind of see how that worked tonight, which is a voluntary process offered by the city to get early input on a development project, and neighborhood review meetings, which will actually be required for certain types of projects moving forward. This chapter also covers public notices, the appeals process, modifications, and the like. Chapter 6.04 outlines all the various development permits and approvals, such as zoning clearance, planning review, which I'll talk about in more detail on the coming slides, administrative and conditional use permits, temporary use permits, variances, and reasonable accommodation. And lastly, chapter 6.05 covers the procedures for other types of plans, including plan developments, development agreements, and specific plans. So I want to spend some time walking through the 3 types of planning review for development projects, since recent state legislation now mandates ministerial review for most housing projects. And this is quite a change from kind of current city procedures. There are 3 types of planning review outlined in this article: administrative, ministerial, and discretionary. Administrative review is at the director level, and it applies to certain types of projects and permits: administrative use permits, temporary use permits and sign permits, administrative variances and minor modifications, and small non-residential projects. So commercial projects that are 5,000 square feet and under, and industrial projects 10,000 square feet and under. This type of review does not involve subjective judgment for the most part, and decisions by the director can be appealed to the Planning Commission. Per state law, ministerial review is now required for all residential projects of 2 or more units and mixed-use projects with at least 2/3 residential. The director and Planning Commission will review the projects for conformance with the general plan, zoning, and objective development and design standards. These types of review cannot involve any subjective judgment or discretion. The Planning Commission can hold public hearings and provide recommendations or comments on the project, but cannot reduce the density of the project or request changes that will increase the cost of the project. The city cannot deny any of these types of projects if they meet all the requirements of the code. However, if a housing project requires a general plan amendment or a conditional use permit, for example, they will go through the discretionary review process. Additionally, it's possible that an applicant or a project might not want to meet all of the objective design standards or can't meet all the objective design standards, or they want to vary from those, and they can choose to go through the discretionary review process so that the Planning Commission can determine whether the project meets the intent of the design standards, even if they can't meet them strictly.
Oh, Sandra, maybe before we move on to the next slide, we should stop here for a minute and see if
Yes.
the commission has questions. I suspect they might, or comments. So if that's the chair, if that's acceptable, maybe we should take a moment and just go talk about this a little bit more in detail, if that's what the commission would like to do.
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. It's good to see some parameters kind of put over this so we can kind of, wrap our heads around this. Do we have any commissioner thoughts on these? I know Gloria, if you want to start, you kind of spearheaded, this discussion.
I was going to be nice and let Jackie go first. I guess not. Okay. Okay, so I understand the ministerial. They're still going to come before us. We still get to discuss it. We do have the specific plan, the downtown plan, and they have to meet all of those rules and regs that we put in there, which we've been working on for years. On the administrative side, I understand the idea of trying to get the smaller projects through without having to go through such a lengthy process, right? Time is money, everything takes time. So my question here is, on the commercial side, 5,000 square feet doesn't sound like a whole lot for a commercial property. Usually they'll be bigger. But if I'm seeing this right, what about things like Dutch Brothers or fast food, Starbucks, the things that, they're always pretty kind of cutters, but there's a lot of them that come in, right? What else would be like 5,000 square feet or less that we might see quite a bit of in the city? Like I said, I'm not an architect, so that's not like immediately I know what kind of buildings I'm looking for. And I worry about like restaurants that want to come in to certain areas and they're smaller restaurants and we don't get to see them at all, location or design or anything. The industrial, usually not a whole lot goes on with industrial. They're pretty simple buildings. They belong in the industrial zone. So I'm not as concerned with that as I am with the commercial. We keep talking about rebuilding our Highway 111 corridor, our downtown specific, Oasis, Miles. There's so many areas that require, I guess, upgrades, right? Which is why that $90 million, thing that we just talked about for things that need to be done in the city streets and all of that, I think it's very important. So Kevin, can you explain to me, or maybe one of the other ladies, on a commercial side, 5,000 square feet, what would we not see in general that would come before us now?
Well, I'll start. I think you gave some really good examples. I think, the Starbucks or a fast food restaurant might be, assuming they're 5,000 square feet or less, maybe a dentist office building or a real estate office building, as some other examples. A small medical office building might be as well. A small standalone multi-tenant building that might have maybe 1,500 square foot tenant spaces or smaller. So those are examples. And I do want to clarify for the record, this is proposed. The commission doesn't have to agree with what is being proposed. You could come up with an alternate recommendation ultimately to city council. So just for anyone that might be watching this is not written in stone. This is a recommendation from staff and the consultants for the commission to consider. But I think those are our examples. And also remember, and you've seen them, the city has enhanced the definition and detail of our design standards that would be applicable. So there's a much higher level of detail now that a project would be looked at under, whether it was commission or administrative level. So and the commission obviously has a hand in establishing those development standards, so you will know what they should be developed to. I don't know. I'm sorry. So go ahead.
So we had talked about a call-up option, right? Is that part of this administrative, or was that something else that we were talking about? Because I know we talked about, okay, lots of these things are probably can be approved through staff without probably a lot of issues or concerns. But we had talked about even this being able to be called up. Is that something we're going to look at a little bit further down that explains the call up features, or where were we going to discuss
Right.
that?
So we talked about with the commission. I think we wanted to get a little bit more feedback tonight on that idea that that's something that could be elevated to the commission, and also reporting to the commission. And I think Alessandra is going to touch on that as well. So the idea that that the commission won't be kept in the proverbial dark. If this administrative was put in place, there would be an opportunity to report out to the commission, so what's happening. It would be an opportunity for the director to go to the commission before a decision is made and get your feedback, and or an opportunity for the director to elevate if he or she felt that the project should be reviewed at a higher level. But maybe I know Alessandra, I think, is going to touch on that in a minute. So maybe if we can just hold on that part of the conversation, and then we'll get back to that.
And
No,
can
well,
I just-
actually, sorry, I was going to say, yes, there is a section on calls for review in the code under, I think it's the common procedures chapter. So an applicant or a commissioner, for instance, can always call something up for review at a higher level. And again, as Kevin mentioned, the director can always decide, ooh, this seems a little bit controversial, or this project, needs some more attention at a higher level, and can recommend that it go to planning commission.
Okay. And just one more question on this slide, on the discretionary, that's more in line of what we do now, right?
Yes.
That's okay. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding at that point. So I think those are my only concerns here, and I really want to understand that call up feature. The commercial projects make me nervous. The industrial is not quite so much, but I'd love to see if my other commissioners are in the same boat, or if they're in a different boat.
If I could know one thing before we the other commissioners, the administrative and there will be neighborhood notification procedures for all of these. So I just want to keep that in mind. So even if there's an administrative review, there will be notification to surrounding property owners in the area. So just wanted to share that.
Yes, and the director will report out on decisions made at that administrative level to the planning commission.
Regularly.
Before the approval or after the approval?
After the approval.
After the approval, however, the director could, at his or her discretion, bring it before the commission to get your feedback before he or she would make a decision. So we're trying to get that administrative, but if, for example, and I keep saying the director because it could be someone else other than me, if he or she felt, this is a different kind of project, or there's an unusual situation, and I'd like to get the feedback of the commission on this, he or she could elect to bring that to you and get your feedback on it. That's a concept. Again, you don't have to agree with it.
Okay.
If I
Thank
could
you.
just jump in briefly here. The procedure, the way it's written right now, is that once the director provides the report on his decision, his or her decisions, the planning commission has a certain amount of time to call that project up and choose to change that decision. So
yes,
for the most part, the small things can just go right through. But if there's a project that comes up in the approval report that you see that you feel like you need to have input in, you can always call it up. That option hasn't been taken away.
And I think
I have a question in regards to what's the turnaround time? What's the timing of all this? And how do we come to this conclusion of do we look at other cities and how they administratively process projects? Are we taking, is this going to impede on getting projects through the desk by having things going back and forth? That's my concern.
Sure. It's a good concern, Commissioner. And the goal, the short answer is no. I think that probably the majority of the time, the projects, particularly the first two bullets, the administrative use permit, site permits, administrative variances, minor modifications, those are not likely to come in front of the Planning Commission. The commercial or industrial projects, there may be instances where that there may be a need for elevation, or the commission may call it up, but administrative review procedures are fairly common in my experience in many cities, and there is a usually a differentiation of scale and intensity that kind of sets the difference between an administrative and a higher level of review. And being sensitive to the commission's concerns, that that's why we limited the commercial at 5,000 or less, 5,000 square feet or less, and the industrial at 10,000 square feet or less, to preserve the opportunity for the commission to have a direct role in the review of more intense, impactful projects, but trying to balance the time, cost, and efficiency, staff resource efficiencies for these smaller projects.
So, okay, so I'm hearing here. So what's a recommended time limit to, or I want to say time limit, but like process? Like, do you have something in place that like, I'm trying to get my head around how this is going to expedite, or is because I know there's certain things that we're not going to be able to review, but like what's a reasonable amount of turnaround before it comes to us?
So you can figure that when you involve a public hearing component in a project, it adds, say, 60 to 90 days to the process, just depending on the nature of the project. So if we have projects that aren't required ultimately to go through a public hearing process, we can cut down the review time. So for example, right now, we would tell someone that if they're going to planning commission, you can expect, say, anywhere from 4 to 6 months on average to get through that process. So it might be that rather than 4 to 6 months, we might be able to get through a process in 3 months for a review of a small project. I mean, these are just hypothetical examples, but the point is that we can reduce, because we do not have to go through the layers of leading up to the planning commission review and going through the planning commission review. We're able to shorten the review timeframes at the administrative level, typically. Does that answer your question?
Kind of, sort of. What have we compared this type of process with other local cities to kind of like study to see what their processes are? I'm just really concerned about when an applicant comes in, whether it be small or big, and again, administratively with staff, if we're having any, say for instance, like what if our director, maybe you are gonna, we can't keep you forever, Kevin. So, but what if, we get a new director and they have a different vision and how to process, or I'm just kind of uncomfortable with process and not really having a kind of like a time frame when someone comes in to do. I guess I'm just a little concerned about that, and what the timing is, and any future staff that comes in, like what is that going to look like, right?
So a couple of thoughts. I appreciate the concern. I said this at our last meeting, and I'll repeat it. I really encourage the commission to trust the standards that you are co-authors of with the city council, and worry less about who's sitting in the chair, because you as commissioners and the city council can always change if you're dissatisfied with the process. So if you think staff's handling of things, you can change that. So the standards that you are developing, and at least theoretically could be adopted, I think will give you as commissioners and the council and the community assurances that a high level of quality design is going to be done. But things can always change, and your concern about timeframes is a reasonable one. I think an administrative, drawing on my own experience, an administrative review process, staff can commit to certain levels of timely reviews that we can't always commit to when we're going through the public process, because certain parts of that are out of our proverbial hands. So, there might be, for example, we could say that we would process administrative use permits, temporary use permits, and sign permits within 30 to 45 days and commit to that, because we typically know that those aren't going to be controversial, and or we can move through them very quickly. And same thing with the small commercial and industrial projects. But I don't know if go ahead.
Just a quick, I think there was a section that I made a note when I went through the report you guys provided us. It was section 6.03.14, I think, which talked about effective dates and processes. I'm assuming we're going to go into that in more detail. There was something about 15 days and there was something about 30 days, and it kind of confused me a bit. So I think instead of just maybe continuing to do that, I think if we went through that section a little bit, I think it might help Commissioner Lopez and myself and maybe the other commissioners to get a better idea of that turnaround time, because it was a little confusing to me. But I think I'm okay with this section at this point. Not sure I'm 100% on board, but.
Well, again, this is a discussion this evening, and you'll have another bite at the proverbial apple when we bring this back to you for actual review and consideration and development of your recommendation to council. So, we're happy to answer any other questions on this slide, or we can move on. And I know some of the areas that you want to have covered, I think Alessandra is going to get to in the very near future in this presentation. But any other questions on this particular slide from any of the commissioners?
Vice Chair, you haven't had a chance to comment. Do you have any questions on this slide?
I do. Thank you. So Kevin, actually, my concern is more about public interaction. So if it's going to the administrative, it won't go through a public hearing. And I know you said that there will be notices in the neighborhood, but when is the opportunity for the community to come back and comment or say something directly to you that gets put into the record and that gets considered as someone within your position is considering approving a project?
Right. So not dissimilar to the process we have now. When a project comes in and we've deemed it complete, then we would prepare a public notice that would go out to property owners when they're a certain distance of the project site. That would have adequate information describing what the project is, such that folks would have a good understanding. The other thing that we're proposing is that something we don't do today, but we are proposing as part of the public notification process, is requiring installation of public notice signs on the properties. So not just people getting a mailer, but for those that live in the area, they would actually have a public notice sign that go up on the property. So that would be another way to signify for them that, hey, something's happening on this property. So there would be a certain amount of time that we would give folks to get feedback to us. And typically, that might be in the form of an email or a written letter. Sometimes folks want to come in and meet as well. Legally, the comments have to be factual. So if they say we don't like the project, we will note that, but we can't necessarily make a decision based on that. But if it's a factually based concern that is relevant, that may impact or influence the decision-making at the administrative level.
And I guess the follow-up to that is, and I know we're going to go into what consists of a call-up, but when you're doing your report after you've already approved these projects, or bringing them and doing a presentation on, will that then consist an opportunity for the community to come back and make any comments and any recommendations, for example, to the commission, in case they were interested in having this be a callback? Like, is that? I just want to make sure that understanding, if it is written within how it currently is spelled out.
If we can hold that question until Alessandra gets to that section of the call-up, I think she can provide that answer to you. And I just want to, I know we're stuck on this screen, but some of these questions are related to other parts of the presentation. So I just want to make sure that if you don't mind, Vice Chair, if we can hold on that question for a moment. So any other questions we can answer on this particular slide? I just want to make sure that we're answering all the questions here.
Yeah, I had a quick question. What makes a project relevant and who decides that?
I apologize, Commissioner. I'm not sure I understand the question.
You said something when the public Vice Chair said something about public comments about a certain project and having an open public hearing items. If I heard that correct, it's kind of low in here to hear. But you mentioned the body, well, someone will decide whether it's relevant or not, a project.
I'm not sure. I'll restate how I understood the vice chair's question. I think his question was, if there is a call-up consideration, how does the public get involved in that call-up? Is that correct? He's shaking his head. Yes, so I think I got it right.
Okay.
I
Who
think
decides
that was
whether
the
it's
nature of the
relevant or not relevant?
So relevancy wouldn't
Concerns.
have a factor, and at least as we're talking about it, wouldn't have a factor. But if the commission believes that the project should be called up, then there would be a process for that.
I think that what Commissioner Lopez is saying is that the comment when it's under administrative review only, and it has not been called up to us, and the public gets notified, and then they reach out to the staff and give their concerns or their comments. I think there was a comment there about relevancy.
Oh, I think I was saying it has to be factual, that the comments have to be factual. So saying I don't like the project, that's an expression of an opinion, but it's not factual. So to be considered in terms of influencing what the decision might be legally, whether, and it's the same onus upon the Planning Commission today. You have to, public comments have to be factual in nature to be able to be considered in the decision-making. Simply just saying I don't like something, well, that's an opinion, not a fact. Does that help answer the question?
Kind of, yes. I'm going to have to rewind back to that question, to your answer there to Vice Chair. But yes, for now. For now.
All right.
Okay.
And this is one of the challenges, and I'll say this very quickly and then we'll move on. This is one of the challenges, no matter what level of review that goes on, there's a legal obligation, no matter who the review party is, that when reviewing public comments, we accept all public comments, but those that we have to consider in terms of the decision-making have to have a factual basis behind them in terms of influencing the outcome of that decision-making. Again, that's on the Planning Commission as well as staff, no matter what the review level is.
Yes, I just wanted to add really quickly as well. I think when Commissioner Lopez was asking about other cities in the Valley, I did look into some of the other zoning codes for nearby cities, and this is true of, I think I would say most cities, is that there is some kind of, they have some kind of administrative review procedure. It might not be called that. It might be called, sometimes it's called minor design review or minor architectural review, but they usually have some kind of administrative procedure that applies to kind of smaller scale projects or applications. That's reviewed at the staff level or at a zoning administrator level.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what cities you reviewed, if you can provide that
sure.
in this meeting.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I was just going to say, like, for instance, La Quinta, they have an administrative review by the director that also includes actually all commercial, industrial projects under 10,000 square feet. So those projects are reviewed at the director level.
But they also have a architectural review committee, correct?
I think so. I'd have to look back at that. I might, yeah, but I know that it's either them or
it's
Palm
actually
Desert who has an architectural committee. Like
Palm Desert has an architectural committee. La Quinta's planning commission
has one. Cayuga City has one.
Yeah, La Quinta, like this Indio Planning Commission does design review, but in that but other cities around you have a separate body. You are that body though for the city of Indio.
I know we keep trying to get off the slide, sorry. Could that be something that we could do? That we could just be involved in the admin and the architectural review portion of it? I mean, I don't know if that's a possibility for maybe, I don't know if we want to do it for 10,000, 5,000 square feet, but could we just do that part of it instead of doing everything, or would that just kind of eliminate the whole reason to have the administrative review, because you still got to come get in front of us?
Yeah. It doesn't streamline the process.
It doesn't necessarily streamline the process unless you take it in the vein of what, like we did earlier this evening, where it's a project consultation model, where staff brings it in front of the planning commission for your feedback, not a public hearing or anything like that, but for feedback, and then incorporates where appropriate the commission's comments into the administrative decision. If that's something you felt where there still could be a touch opportunity for the planning commission, that again, this is just discussion, and ultimately you will make a recommendation to the city council whether or not you support the ideas in front of you.
Okay, can we make a little note of that as an option? Just set it off to the side, and maybe or maybe not, it ends up in here.
And I know I said this at our last meeting, and we will do that, Commissioner. I know I said this last meeting, but I do want to point out that there is an impact on staff resources, and so while it should not in any way take away from the commission's reviewing a 5,000 square foot commercial building versus a 50,000 square foot commercial building, the same level of effort has to go into it today. And from a management standpoint only, it would help me better manage the limited resources we have if there was some opportunity to streamline, to use Alessandra's term earlier. But that is just my perspective only, not something that the commission has to share or take into account ultimately. Although I would at least ask you to think about it.
Okay.
I have a comment, but I'll wait to the end.
If the chair and commission are ready to move on, we will. This has been good, and I think we got some good feedback. But are there any other thoughts before we move on?
I don't think so. I appreciate taking the break to kind of focus on this slide before we move forward. Commissioners, if during the next series of slides, if there's any important thought you have and you want to jump in, please feel free. Otherwise, we'll save any questions until the end. And if we want to come back and discuss this slide a little bit again later, we're more than welcome to do so.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. So I think I'll just touch on discretionary review really quickly. But of course, discretionary review is conducted by the Planning Commission, as you know. It applies to projects that require a conditional use permit, variance, or major modification. It also applies to residential and mixed use projects that require a general plan or zoning amendment or a CUP, and to larger non-residential projects, so commercial over 5,000 square feet and industrial over 10,000 square feet. And then, of course, decisions can be appealed to the City Council. So this diagram provides a flowchart of the planning review process, and I'll walk through this in more detail on the coming slides. I know it's very hard to see. It basically consists of two phases. So there's kind of the initial staff processing of applications, and then there's the actual planning review by the appropriate review authority. So let's kind of zoom in on those a little bit. The first phase is staff processing. Once an applicant submits an application, so it gets assigned a planner, it might get routed to internal departments or external agencies for review. There's a determination on whether an environmental assessment is needed. And staff determines if the application is complete. If it's deemed incomplete, it kind of goes back to the beginning. And the applicant restarts, or if it's deemed complete, then staff completes the notice of application status and it moves on to the next step. And here you can see kind of in a more diagrammatic fashion, the four kind of pathways or four types of review depending on the type of project application. So if the application is for one single family home, for example, or in addition to a single family home, or it's another type of project that only requires a building permit, it would go through the zoning clearance process, through the building permit process, I should say. If the project is a small commercial or industrial project or requires an administrative use permit, temporary use permit, sign permit, administrative variance, or minor modification, it goes through administrative review by staff. If it's a housing project or a residential mixed-use project or an affordable housing project or transitional or supportive housing project, it goes through ministerial review per state law and will go to Planning Commission for review and approval. And then if the project requires a CUP, variance, major modification, a zoning or general plan amendment, or is a larger commercial or industrial project, it goes through the discretionary review process by the Planning Commission. And then this slide just provides an array of kind of example projects with the appropriate review process. So again, if it's a single family home, it would go through zoning clearance. Say it was a 4 townhome development, it would go through ministerial review since it's residential. Same thing if it was a 3-story multifamily building, it would be ministerial review. If it was an office or industrial building of, oops, maybe I should have said commercial building, whoops. Under those thresholds, it would go through administrative review. Say it's a large shopping center complex, that would go through discretionary review. And then if you have a mixed use development, even if it's substantially or majority residential, if it requires a conditional use permit, it would go through discretionary review.
Can I ask a quick question of Kevin? Is there anything recently, say in the last 6 months off the top of your head that you can think of that had this been implemented would have been a simple administrative review?
Boy, let me think first. I apologize, you put me on the spot, Chair. There have been several projects in the last 6 months where we've had, try to think of the most recent one that comes to mind that was a small project. I apologize, Chair. If you can give me a few minutes to think on it, how about I circle back to you on that question?
Kevin, if I may, this is Alyssa.
Oh, thank you.
We have had a design review previously for a storage facility, an RV storage. I don't recall whether that was 5,000 square feet or less, or even 10. I'm sure it was 10,000 less than 10,000 square feet. But that would be an example of an administrative review under this new zoning requirement.
Right. And Commissioner Franz had noted, although it wasn't the last 6 months, the Dutch Brothers as an example, that was 850 square foot building. We have had, or we will have in the near future. I'll give you an example of one that would not go through administrative review, but it's in the same threshold category. Many of you know that we're getting a Texas Roadhouse in North Indio. That'll be an 8,000 square foot restaurant. So that would go through Planning Commission review. And that project is making its way to you right now through the design review process. So there's an example of where it would be discretionary review because it exceeds that 5,000 square foot.
Okay, I was just kind of curious, kind of going back to that example of the Dutch Brothers. If I recall, there was a lot of public interest, both for and against that project. So that's something that, I think it was important to be brought in front of the commission.
Correct. And in this instance, there would still be noticing of a project like that. There would still be opportunity for public to provide comment. But the difference would be is it would not be in front of the Planning Commission. You are correct, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot. It was just something that popped up.
Oh, that's okay. I don't mind being put on the spot. I just apologize. I had to scramble in my head there for a minute, and thank you, Alyssa.
Okay, thank you. Alessandra?
Thank you. Actually, I really only have one more slide as part of the overview. But again, we can get into more details. I can pull up the actual code itself if we want to look at specific sections after this. But I just wanted to point out that at the beginning of Article 6, there is a summary table that clearly illustrates who the review, decision-making, and appeal bodies are for each type of procedure described in this section of the code.
And just to add, this is really more of a customer service table. This would tell someone if they're wanting to know what process they have to go through. This would give them a quick overview without having to go deep into the code of what process based on their type of application that the procedures they would have to follow.
Yep.
So this is a customer service table in many ways.
Are there any questions on this before I kind of move on to our question answer discussion?
Alessandra, do you want to spend a few moments on talking about the call up? I think that was
I mean, I can go to that. Let's see.
Let's go to that code section so we can help answer the questions that have been raised.
Yes. Oops. I have two screens here, so hopefully you're seeing the right thing. Should have opened. Aha. Are you seeing calls for review? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yes.
Okay. So yes, calls for review can be made by the majority of the Planning Commission.
Alessandra, sorry to interrupt. Can you close your find box?
Yes.
Thank you.
Calls for review can be made by the majority of the Planning Commission for any review of a decision by the director. Oops. I'm trying to remember why we put it zoning administrator. I think we might need to take that out. Or by a majority of the city council. They can always call something up for review for a decision by the director or the Planning Commission. Let's see. Yes.
Scroll down the time limits, I think.
Yeah, let's look at the time limits more closely.
Can we go back to that section real quick?
Oh yeah, sorry.
I just kind of figure we'll just take them as we go, right? So Chair, I hope it's okay. I just kind of jumped in like usual. Right here, we're on number 1. It says the majority of the Planning Commission may call for review of a decision of the director, and you're right, the zoning administrator will, it's not part of our deal, so that'll go away. And I don't know if the rest of the commission is on board, but I would like to add the majority of the Planning Commission or the chair. I would like to give the chair a little leeway. I mean, there's only 5 of us, so sometimes things are what they are. I don't know if that's a problem, but otherwise, I think that would be a good add-on on that section.
If I could respond to that, and this is a topic I think the commission should discuss. One of the reasons why we recommended majority is that so no one commissioner controls the decision-making. And it was felt that if a majority of the commission felt that there was a basis for call or a need for call upon basis, then that would be a kind of in essence a group decision. But if you have one individual making that choice, then in essence that individual is making the choice for the entire Planning Commission. And so staff felt that it was appropriate that it be a majority. So the Commissioner Franz's suggestion may go against that idea that staff had, but just throwing it out there for conversation.
I mean, it's something that popped into my head. I'd love to hear what the other commissioners think of it.
What would be the process, say one of the commissioners, whether it be the chairperson or commissioner, wants to call for a review? Is it something that maybe just during commissioner comments at the end, a commissioner can make a motion to bring up an item up for review? And if they get a second and we take a vote at that point, that would determine the majority?
It would have to be, and Assistant City Attorney Heinzelman can correct me, but it would have to be an agendized discussion. So you would have to ask for, or a member of the planning commission would have to ask for it to be on the agenda. We could add it as a standing item to the agenda as part of the reporting out, so that way we covered it, but it can't just be done without being agendized in some way. Does that answer your question, Chair? So that's the first part.
So maybe we have a set time for a commissioner to propose something like that, and then we set it for an agenda item at a future date.
Well,
And
or it
is there a
could be
timeline. Is there a timeline on that as well?
Right. There is, but what we could do is we could have as part of the regular planning commission agenda, we could have a section that is action oriented, where there's a review of decisions made by the director. As part of that, it could be action oriented, such that the majority of the commission could take action to determine for a call up of that decision. So as long as we find a way to agendize it, so it's on the public record. And so we would, again, Assistant Secretary Attorney Hausman can please jump in, but we just need to make sure it's agendized. And so we would have to structure that in a way that it gets on the agenda and it's action oriented, so that if the commission is to take a majority of the commission is to take a motion action, it's officially on the public record.
Okay, so maybe this solves my problem. So any commissioner can say, if we're going to have this on the agenda and we're going to go through and you're going to have 3 items or 4 items that you've approved, and we're within whatever that timeline is, because I'm sure there's going to be a point where once you approve it, the developer, has to be able to move forward, right? So there's going to have to be a window of time. There you go, time limits. So if it's on the agenda and it at least will be available for us to look at, then I'm okay with the majority. I just wanted to make sure that if we couldn't get a majority to bring it forward, so at least we can have that list available to us and we can discuss it during a meeting. So that kind of removes my need to have just a chair, because it's already going to be on the agenda. So I actually like that idea.
Okay.
To chime in, Assistant City Attorney Heinzelman here. I think everything Director Snyder mentioned was correct. It would need to be agendized. There'd have to be a complete description of the action and everything, so the public knows what's going on. And I think it sounds like it would be possible to do as a standing item based on the regular reporting requirements. And to the extent that a majority of the body would be taking action and deciding on something, that would need to happen in a meeting. So I guess another reason to agendize it and put it on a meeting.
Cool.
I kind of agree with Commissioner Franz's thoughts on that. Any other commissioner thoughts on having that as a standing agendized portion?
I think this last option actually answers my question I had earlier about what is that interaction with the community, to be able to then, as part of the planning commission, say, maybe we should bring that back up to review. And so if it's something that is going to be living within the agenda and something that could be then brought up, if the majority agrees, and maybe we heard some comments, I don't know, and this is completely like ridiculous scenario, but maybe Kevin approved a neon green building that is the community is just absolutely not into it, and so maybe they say, please call this back for review, or and so I think if that were to be the approach, and that is something that is not going to be either causing an extension of streamlining these permits and getting things done, if it's not going to slow us down, if it's not going to hinder the process, then I think absolutely I would be behind something like that.
And I should add, with it being an agendized item, any commissioner can begin the discussion. It's a majority that needs to decide to call it up. So if Commissioner Franz said, I want to discuss whether we should call up the neon green building that the vice chair used, and the majority of the commission says, yes, that was a horrible decision. What was he thinking? Was he on cough medicine or something? I don't know. But then that's how it would occur.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct. Do we
And,
want to look at?
and I would say that if the call up does occur, certainly, you know, the applicant would be made aware of that, and they would be, invited to the commission's formal discussion on that. So it would be an opportunity to hear from the applicant as well. It wouldn't be done in isolation. So the applicant would be part of that conversation as well. So Chair, does this, does this help answer the question that the commission had, or would you like us to go further into this?
I think it does answer everyone's question. What would be the next step if that's something that we wanted to implement as being a standardized part of the agenda?
We can certainly add some language into the draft code that specifies that it will be agendized as a regular item, just to clarify that for the record. So I already see Alessandra making notes. So we'll, on the next version of this that you see, there'll be language in there that we'll add that will point out that this will occur in the manner in which we described.
Okay, so are my fellow commissioners okay with that if we kind of move on, and the next time that we discuss this, we'll kind of briefly go into an explanation of that language that we're going to add to this part 6?
Yeah, at this point, I think that helps. I'm not 100% on the 5,000 square feet or 10, but let's look at the timeline and we'll discuss it. But I do like that idea for any administrative approvals.
And again, just remember, if when this comes back for formal hearing, if you, as the majority of the commission, do not support the administrative review for commercial projects at 5,000 square feet or less, you can make a recommendation to council that be the purview of the commission. So it's just a suggestion or a recommendation from staff only.
Yeah, and we can discuss a different threshold if you think that would be more appropriate.
Okay, commissioners, let's put some thought into that as well. When will that be something that we take action on, Kevin?
Well, so I guess a question for the commission, and you can think on it for a moment or two, but our plan is now, once we finish this evening and get your feedback, is we're going to finalize the document and start to prepare for the formal public hearings. If there are some topics that are outstanding for you, such as what we're just talking about right now, the 5,000 square foot, for example, well, the consultant isn't scope for this. Staff could bring back and have a limited discussion on this topic, along with any other things you identified this evening, to get further input and direction from you that we can feed back into the final version of the draft code that's going to come to you, because we are planning for formal public hearings. So I think if you need to scratch this itch a little bit more, it's probably working with myself and Alyssa directly on some key topic areas you want to discuss further. That will give Alessandra and Simran the opportunity to continue to focus to prepare the document for the formal public hearing, and then we can feed back into that process with any additional feedback you give.
Okay, and by when would you like to have some input from commissioners? Should they have any thoughts on?
Well, I think if the commission is going to want to talk about anything else further this evening, I think probably it would help us if we did that at your next commission meeting, and that will and hopefully get enough direction at that time that we can feed back into that, because we are now on a timeline after this evening of getting the document ready.
Chair, I think that if we get through this timeline and some of my questions are answered, we might get to something that maybe we all feel okay with. I know that this is up against the clock now, and we really want to get this moving forward. So I'd prefer not to bring it back to another meeting, but I also know it's 8:30, past most of our bedtimes, I think. So I'm not sure, but can we go through this timeline thing and maybe see where we are at that point?
I might want to, it might be a suggestion to be able to streamline that, is any changes to the language after this discussion would be good to maybe just, have them all in one place, so that when it does come for for the more official review and the public comment process, that we might have that language accessible, available to us. And that way, if there are any comments, we can then bring them up at that point. And I feel maybe that way you all can take our questions and suggestions, figure out how to implement them and have the language be reflective of what we've identified. And as long as we get a version of the language that will be used in the version that we either, recommend or not, I think that might help, streamline. Just a recommendation.
Yeah. If the commission would, to follow the vice chair's suggestion, we could develop some draft language in response to the comments tonight. We could send that to the commission members, and then you could get back to me individually with any comments or questions you have for feedback into the document that Alessandra and Silvano will be working on with us. If that would be a more efficient use of your time so that we didn't need to dedicate another meeting to this, we can certainly do that. That's another option.
I'm for that.
Yeah, if there's anything, any changes we're making this evening in response to your input, we could feed back to you and then get your individual feedback directly and if there's consensus, we'll, in terms of the feedback, we can address it in the document that we're preparing.
Commissioners, are we okay with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, so we'll work off of that. It was pointed out that it's actually 8:35, so I do want to be mindful of time. Alessandra, what other things did you want to make sure to touch on this evening with the commission?
That was kind of the conclusion of our presentation. And one of our key questions was on those kind of thresholds for administrative versus discretionary review. But I know Commissioner Franz, you wanted to look more specifically at some of the time limits. So I don't know if we wanted to take a few minutes just to look at that specific section of this article or not.
If we're talking about, bringing those approval items on the agenda, then I think the limits that I see was the callback for reviews was received within 30 days of the date that it was approved. So it would come up really fast. And I'm assuming the approval would have some kind of restriction that it wouldn't be approved until we had a chance to review it, right? Because if Kevin or staff or whoever's there says it's approved, we don't want them to go and start building if we're going to come back in 30 days and say, no, wait a minute, we want to look at it, right? So as long as that is built into it, then I'm okay with the time limit. Just want to make sure that was going to be built in somehow to the process.
Right, we would have to construct some language that would go into the approval that would in essence identify that the project is potentially subject to call up consideration by the Planning Commission. So we would develop language that will go into the administrative approval that would formally note for the applicant that this could occur, and then that make them aware of that. They would also be made aware of that much earlier in the process as well, but that would be the formal notification.
Right. Okay. So that was one of my big ones. The only other thing that I was, like I said, it's the commercial projects of 5,000 square feet, right? That stresses me out because I've seen some projects over the years that were probably just over that threshold, right? Or just under the threshold, I should say, that would have possibly been approved, maybe not built, but approved. That make me nervous. One of the things that I kind of came up as I sat here trying to figure out another idea was if it's something like a Starbucks or a Del Taco or a big brand name, they all kind of have the same look, right? So the architectural review, there's really not a lot to review, right? They're built to look like pretty much this, for those smaller projects. The dollar store that's on, I think it's on Jackson, that we basically wouldn't let them build the project the way they normally built them. And we made them do stucco, if anybody remembers that. But that was much bigger than 5,000 square feet. So that would have came before us anyway. So I don't know how the commission feels about maybe up to 5,000 square feet if it is a large brand or a large, KFC, big name brands that kind of build the same way everywhere, McDonald's. But if it was something that wasn't a big brand like that, maybe dropping the size to, I don't know, 2,500 square feet or something. I mean, that's something that came into my head, and I don't know if anybody else just thinks I'm losing my mind at this point, which is possible, or whether any of the commissioners think that might be a decent idea to maybe find the middle ground.
I understand your concern with that, Commissioner, but again, where is that determined, of what's a national brand, what's something that will look uniform, Starbucks or whatever in the Pacific Northwest might look different than they do here in Southern California. And if so, like I said, who determines what something that qualifies, into that group that you're discussing?
It might be considered like a form of, I'm wondering about the legal aspects there. Like
Discrimination. I'm sorry. I forgot about that. That's a big word. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm of the opposite thought. I think that the intention of streamlining this, I think, we get involved in the development of the plans and all the things that are, all the standards that are set forward, so that staff can take the direction and just run with it. And so I think that there is a lot of opportunity for the commission to have influence as to what those standards are, if that is what the concern is. And I know that, Kevin particularly would not go and get a neon green building, but I think if we have a plan in place that says don't do that, I cannot imagine that staff would do the opposite. And so I think the recommendations as they are right now seem very reasonable. And it seems to me that the purpose of this is to streamline. And I think the concerns about timing that were raised would be addressed if we were to put this into place, because I think it would, those applicants would be able to know that this is, unless the commission truly feels very strongly about it, it's going to get called up again. And so I think if anything, this might actually create more of security for applicants to say, I'm bringing a small project. I'm reading the general plan. I'm reading a specific plan. I know exactly what to do. And then we have Kevin and his entire staff to verify that that is the case. And so I'm with the initial recommendations, but I might be in the minority.
One thing about the brands versus non-brands, and it may not be illegal or anything like that, but I do think that there may be some fairness questions. For example, a doctor that wants to build a 3,000 square foot office building is going to a planning commission meeting, but Del Taco building a 4,500 square foot is not. So I would discourage the planning commission maybe from going down that road. I think it simply comes down to a question that the majority of you have to consider when you're making a recommendation to council. Do you want to provide an avenue for streamline minimal level of streamline review, or do you want the reviews to stay in the purview of the planning commission? And ultimately, you're the advisory body to city council. You need to make that decision.
I think that if we can put in the call-up feature the way we're talking about on the agenda, I think if the other commissioners feel the way they do, I can live with it. How's that? I can live with it. We haven't heard from Jackie, and usually she's not this quiet. So is she still there? And I can't see her. The chamber's camera's not on, probably because we're sharing a screen. So
I can also add. Sorry, go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay, now you can see me. I'm just, again, I agree with Commissioner Franz, and again, just making sure that, and again, trusting stuff. But I guess my concern is, like, if there's like a Starbucks that goes in a space, but does it really fit for the architecture? And again, not having that's what's the word I'm looking for? Review or like not the authority. I'm sorry, it's 8:45. But just not having the I don't want to use the word authority to review those types of buildings, right? Or like a Starbucks, or you mentioned like a KFC, does it really fit in maybe it's zoned for it, but is is it the right fit or or maybe it's like the wrong color. I want to trust staff would would go ahead with it. It's just like one step. You know what would be helpful, Kevin? And I'm all about process. I'm a process type of person with policies and procedures. I'm a stickler for that. It's my A-type personality. But can you send me what we currently have, and I can kind of compare and contrast what the changes will be, and that will help me better understand what you are recommending and what we have currently done in the past?
Sure. And I mean, just verbally, everything right now that no matter the size of the structure, everything for site, architectural and site review, i.e. design review, goes to the Planning Commission. And you review it. The one, I think a distinguishing feature between the process now and the process to come, no matter what you decide, whether it's administrative review or Planning Commission review in terms of your recommendation to council, you're going to have a lot more detailed standards to go off of than you have in the past, whether it's staff doing the review or commission. So for example, in the development standards, there are standards pertaining to the integration of drive-throughs into the building architecture. Right now, if someone wants to come in and do the standard canopy over a drive-through window and call it good, we technically don't have much authority to tell them no. But in the new language that's being considered by you for recommendation to council, there actually are detailed standards of how you have to design those drive-through facilities so they're more aesthetically and visually integrated into the building, hopefully producing a better overall building design and site design. So that's an example. I'm happy to do what you asked, Commissioner, but that's an example of where no matter who's doing the review, I think the level of standards, development standards that you rely upon to do those reviews are going to be more detailed than they are today. The Planning Commission, you've done a wonderful job, I think, of convincing applicants to step up in their quality. But now you're theoretically, if this gets adopted with your recommendations to council, you're going to have the ability to back that up, no matter whether you're making the decision or staff is, with very detailed development standards.
I was also just going to add really quickly that, I mean, there will be opportunities, of course, to adjust the code as you start using this new development code. So, if you try this out and you decide, actually, there's, the threshold is smaller, we want to see, most of the projects that we want to see are, commercial projects are 4,000 square feet and up, like then you can make that change. You can kind of see how it works.
And just to add to that, and I think Simran wanted to say something too,
yes.
Real fast, but
Yeah.
if you do have an administrative, if you do decide to recommend that and you don't like it, you don't like how it's going, remember, you can always recommend to the city council to change it. And so that's the benefit of the policymaking process. It's truly never static. So if you decide to make a recommendation and you're dissatisfied with the results, you can always ask the council to reassign that authority back to you. And I think Simran, if Chair, if it's okay, I think Simran had a point to make, and I know we want to wind up here soon.
Yeah, actually, I'll keep it short. Alessandra made, and Kevin, you just made the point I was going to make, so we're good.
Okay.
So the first time we see a neon green building, then we'll have that discussion.
Kevin's control taken away.
I'm not hearing anything against hot pink, so I'm going with hot pink.
I have something quick to add that I just kind of thought of in regards to the reporting status and the time limits. It hasn't been often where we've canceled a planning commission meeting, whether it's due to lack of a quorum or sometimes, especially during the holidays, sometimes however the schedule falls, it'll kind of lead to us sometimes skipping a couple meetings in a row. How would we address a situation like that where we don't have an opportunity to get a report within 30 days of a decision?
That's a great question, Chair. Honestly, we would need a quorum to have the commission review an item. Well, first to motion a call-up action and then for a review. We have to balance that out with it, fairness to the applicant on waiting, for the process. So if the commission isn't able to sit a quorum, I'm not sure how much that should be on the applicant So I think we may need, I think let us talk a little bit about that, of whether there's anything that we want to propose as a response to your question. But I think I'm going to kind of put that back in the commission's lap a little bit. I think it really comes down to ensuring that we have a quorum of attendees as much as possible, knowing that there are situations that happen. We understand that. So I'll talk with Simran and Alessandra about that and whether we want to recognize and maybe we provide a one-off opportunity in situations like that. I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, I would think off the top of my head, I would think sometimes they're canceled more due to lack of items to bring before us or scheduling conflicts with holidays, especially around Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving. Sometimes we don't, sometimes we've skipped 2 to 3 meetings in a row. It's not very often due to a quorum, lack of quorum, but sometimes just due to holiday schedules or lack of items to bring before us.
Yeah, I think let us mull on that a little bit and maybe come back to you with a thought. And that would be one of the items where we would send it out to you separately and get the individual feedback.
Okay, sounds good. Anything else to go over with this? Or how do we, if we're trying to close this, how do we go forward?
Well, we're at 8:50. I know the commission's tired. You've had a long conversation on a number of items. I just want to check in with Alessandra and Simran and see if there's anything else that they want to touch on.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. So one of the things that I'll be doing separately, and to your point, we're going to notice the City Council and Planning Commission public hearings. And so I will be reaching out to you individually, confirming that we have a quorum. We're gonna presume 2 Planning Commission meetings. We may only need 1, but we'll presume 2. So we will want to assure that there will be a quorum in attendance. So I'll send a separate email out to the commission and then ask you to respond back directly to me, confirming your availability on those dates. So just keep that in mind because once we send that notice out, it is really important we try to hold those public hearing dates. So as we'll be doing a citywide notification.
Okay, thank you. I don't think we took the opportunity to see if there were any public comments. Vanessa, any public comments online or any public comments? Okay. All right, then we will close this item 5.3. Any other commissioner comments or staff comments?
No, Chair, I'll note it, and I sent you out an email, and I know she's in the room, but our new administrative assistant, Jessica Bellman, started. I think she's sitting right next to Vanessa, so please wave, Jessica. So Jessica, this is her 3rd day with us, and we're very excited to have her, and we're training her up. So pretty soon, Vanessa will go back to having 1 job, and Jessica will be the friendly face that will assist the commission at your commission meetings. So welcome, Jessica, and look forward to having you on the team. And I want to thank the commission for sitting through all these 6 study sessions with the Ramey team and staff. Your input has been very helpful, and we're excited to get into the public hearings and getting closer to having these new zoning regulations in effect. Yeah, with that, staff is happy to answer any remaining questions. Otherwise, that's it for us.
Thank you. Welcome, Jessica. And I don't have any questions for staff. If any other commissioners have any more questions? No? Okay, we will adjourn till the next Planning Commission meeting on June 8th, 2022. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.